All right, joining me on this episode of the podcast is a good friend. Always enjoy. I would have this gentleman on the show, Jay Stevens. You can check him out Monday through Friday, pretty much every day, wherever you get your podcasts. Over at Locked On Buckeyes, also sports content specialist for the Kokomo Post. Jay, I appreciate you coming on. I know we're going to talk some Ohio State, and we'll just see where the podcast leads us on this episode. But I appreciate you coming on again.
Phil, that could be pretty scary just seeing where the podcast leads us. We could talk about a lot of things that people maybe don't think about because you and I have similar minds when it comes to sports, football, basketball, sports media. We could just go off on anything. I could just say any Bill Simmons, and we could go on and talk for 20 minutes about Bill Simmons and his venture in sports media. So it could lead anywhere, but I'm glad to be here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just again throughout this week, dealing with the cold. I'm playing hurt, but I'm here. I'm toughing it out. Here on the podcast. But first, just before we get into it, I think my voice just cracked just saying what I just said. And that may happen. We'll see. Before we get into what happened in Ohio State the past year, an Ohio State Buckeye won a Super Bowl on Sunday night for the Seahawks. Jackson Smith and Jigba. I remember when I had you on, he was at Ohio State. I always was worried I would say that name wrong. I think I got it down. He was a big player for me on my fantasy football team this year. I made it all the way to the championship game, but then Jared Goff scores 1 point in the championship game, and then I was through. He averaged 20 points a game. The 1 week he didn't do it, the championship game. Anyways, but Jackson Smith and Jigma winning the Super Bowl. He didn't have a big game, which it was not needed because the Seahawks defense was nasty all night long in the Super Bowl. Another receiver stepped up, but just your thoughts on the Ohio State Buckeye alum getting that championship.
It's always fun seeing the Buckeye win the Super Bowl, and it was one of those games where either side you either get Mike Vrabel and Thayer Munford and Trevion Henderson. If the Patriots won, you get Njigba if it's the Seahawks, and so and Jig was one of those guys. If you're a Buckeye, you think about the 2021 season where he set a new bowl game record with receptions and receiving yards in the Rose Bowl, took advantage of some of the Utah defense's mishaps and issues and some injuries as well. And he just went smooth off. Him and CJ Stroud had a masterful connection that day on New Year's Day. And just seeing the year he had this past year in the NFL, with the receptions, the yards, just everything that it took from him to really go off this year and to be the best receiver in the NFL, it really makes some Ohio State fans wonder what could have been in 2022 if Njigba did not get hurt and only play a few games due to the injury that he suffered. So really happy for him. Really, really happy. Love seeing the growth and the development he's had in the NFL. And it's always fun seeing the Buckeye torch NFL defenses every single week.
Yeah, I remember that because there was a lot of hope with him and Marvin Harrison together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot. Oh wow, these are two 1A wide receivers, and just that kind of continuation and that starting or just that line of receivers for Ohio State with him and Marvin Harrison, and then now you got Jeremiah Smith and then Carnell Tate who's going into the NFL. So just loaded. I mean, they're wide receiver you right now at Ohio State. I think for a time it was Alabama and Ohio State kind of fighting that out for a little bit, but right now it is squarely wide receiver you is there in Columbus, Ohio.
You got to thank Nick Saban for retiring, because if Nick Saban did not retire, it still would have been an Alabama-Ohio State battle. I still think Ohio State holds the crown for wide receiver U, but you can't deny what Nick Saban did down there in Tuscaloosa. Sorry, Philip, I know that's a sore subject for you, bringing up that man that ran that team in that part of the state. I don't want
to. I'm numb to it.
I apologize. I should have kept that to myself. But Ohio State, honestly, is wide receiver U. You mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. because in 2022, you were thinking you were going to get in Njigba's 2021 season, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. started in the Rose Bowl because Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave set out to prepare for the NFL draft.
That's so another one. Oh, those two are really good.
Yes,
in the NFL.
And so you got Harrison Jr. starting. I think he had a couple of touchdowns that day on New Year's Day for some phenomenal catches, and you thought this was just a glimpse, like a appetizer of what Marvin Harrison Jr. could do in a full season. The next year, with Njigba coming back, everyone thought this was going to be a high-flying offense, but one injury really hurt the offense, and that offense of 2022, it was not as elite as it could have been.
And looking at this past year, 2025, obviously Ohio State 12-0. And then even going into the playoffs after losing the Big Ten championship, you feel like, okay, Ohio State and Indiana are the best two teams, but then obviously they lose to Miami. You look at the first 12-0, dominant defense, and then you look at how the last two games went. What went wrong in your mind with Ohio State?
Ohio State's offense had issues all season, and it was trying to figure out the right formula for the run game, trying to figure out how to create more of a push on the offensive line. There were some times in pass pro, the O line was I don't want to say a huge problem, but a front like Wisconsin's front, which Wisconsin was horrible last year, and their defense wasn't horrible. And their defensive front was very strong. It was great at the point of attack, and their D line's always strong. And so Ohio State's offensive line, Texas, Michigan, who was it? Indiana, and then Miami. The only really good game overall they had was against Michigan. The other three games they played, the O-line wasn't strong. The O-line had some issues, and they really weren't the strongest part of the team like they should have been. And that showed up in the two biggest games. Well, I can't say biggest games because playing Indiana in the Big Ten title, I don't know if that outweighs in some Ohio State fans' minds the game against Michigan. But in the last two games of the year, you were outmatched in the trenches. And it wasn't just the O-line, the D-line too. They had absolutely no answer for Indiana's front on defense. They had no answer for Miami's front on defense either. And I think you also had guys playing out of position, which has been a Ryan Day staple. Unfortunately, Ryan Day has had a tendency to play guys out of position, have either play a guard at tackle or play a tackle at guard. And you can win a lot of games that way because of how talented you are. But when you're trying to win the ultimate prize, it's not a recipe for success.
When I look back at the Big Ten title game, and I kind of went back and looked at the play-by-play, kind of like where everything went. Missed opportunities too. There were some missed chances in that game. You had that third quarter, a 12-play, 70-yard drive that ends up turnover downs, missed a field goal in the fourth quarter, obviously that ended up costing. And then, of course, there was that point in the game where Fernando Mendoza gets knocked out for a little bit. There could have been an opportunity there to add some points. It really felt like that game, which they did get pressure on Julian Stain. Indiana did too as well. It was a game of missed opportunities. And then you jump into Miami, and then that Miami defense front was just as they were the entire playoff. They were just on a different level. I mean,
yes, they were.
Carson Beck did not have to do much for Miami really during the run until the end, and then Carson Beck. But yeah, that game against Indiana, missed opportunities, and just again not being able to block that Miami front. And then I'll say this: I remember watching it. I was at a New Year's Eve party, the Miami game. The Keontae Scott interception. One, I don't care who you're a fan of, and he was at Auburn before he went to Miami. That was one of the most perfectly read plays because you just see that routine, that screen. You rarely see a DB just read it the way he did. I mean, he just saw it all the way. Pick six is 14-0. I think that was probably maybe the biggest play in the game because Ohio State was moving the ball at that point.
Yeah,
and then they go down there. If they go down there and tie it, it's a different vibe on that game. But the 14-0 that changed things. But anyways, kind of a long way of saying missed opportunities in the Indiana game, and then just that turnover, and then just the way Miami's defense front. I mean, what you mentioned it as well.
No, you're right. The missed opportunities is a big one. That actually hurt Ohio State in numerous games. Think about it. You're 12-0 going into the Big Ten title game, and some of the missed opportunities, some short yardage mishaps, not really having the strongest kicking game, not figuring out the right running back rotation. Some of the things you would have figured out by game 5, 6, or 7, they were trying to figure out in game number 13. You would think if you were that team, you would not make it to the Big Ten title game, but they did. They found a way to get there. But the missed opportunities, the kicking game's been an issue at Ohio State for a few years. I think Ryan Day's loyalty to people really hurt him with the kicker because the kicker has showed you previously he wasn't the man for the job, but Ryan Day still put him out there. They never tried the backup kicker, not once this season, which never made sense because the belief was that the backup kicker was actually the best kicker on the team, but if you don't give him a shot to kick it in the game, you're never going to see if that man truly has the guts needed to make the big kicks. And so I don't know. It's a weird season for Ohio State because you would think Ohio State is they're more talented than Indiana. I would not say they're not more talented player for player. They're more talented than Miami. But when the overall team gets on the field, Indiana and Miami were clearly the better teams that day. Ohio State got in their own way. It hurt them from potentially winning a national championship.
And looking ahead to next season, of course, you get a win over Michigan. So, I know for some fan base, that's a big thing. So and that was just wild, the whole thing that happened with, their coaching situation. But now Kyle Whittingham is the new head coach, which I think is a great hire to really fix a program, really get you kind of settled. You get away from the Jim Harbaugh whole thing about it. And this is a guy that wins. And I think Michigan is going to be a really good team. They're going to be coached well. They're going to be physical, really good defense. How does Buckeye Nation feel about Kyle Whittingham at Michigan?
Honestly, the people I talk to don't really care about they care about the coach, but they're so focused on Ohio State, they haven't really done a deep dive into Kyle Whittingham. And I think the only time Ryan Day faced him in his career was the 2022 Rose Bowl. And so it's not like there's a long history between Ryan Day and Kyle Whittingham at all. It's your now rival is the man that replaced Urban Meyer, who was the last head coach at Ohio State. And so it's weird. I think everyone's so focused about the portal, recruiting, what Ryan Day is doing for the upcoming season, the hire of Arthur Smith, and keeping Tyler Bowen, the O-line coach, and the O-line really wasn't strong this year. And so everyone's more focused on Ohio State and what they are right now. They're not really focused on Michigan because this is going to sound crazy. Michigan's a talented team, but they're not on Ohio State's level. If they had more talent, they might be a little bit more worried that Kyle Whittingham is there. But I don't think any Ohio State fan really views Michigan as a team that's on their level because Ohio State should clearly be better than Michigan every year.
Okay, you mentioned something, and I was looking it up, and I completely forgot about it for a second until you just mentioned it. What is Ryan Day thinking?
Oh, God.
Arthur Smith. I mean, Atlanta fans hate him. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
And then I think Aaron Rodgers hated him too. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb on that one. That was not Aaron Rodgers' dude. I mean, how many times do you watch a Steeler game and see Aaron Rodgers just chewing that joker out over the plays he was calling? I'm like, what he said to Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur was G-rated compared to what he was saying to Arthur Smith as appeared on the sideline. So, I mean, I don't know. I looked at that hire and I'm like, you need to watch him, Ryan Day, call if you're going to let him mess with your offense.
I'm laughing, Philip, because you and I are on the same page. I was actually at a high school basketball game. I was covering high school basketball on a Saturday night, and my buddy came over to me, and I do a live video on Facebook before every high school, well, once a week before a high school basketball game. And my buddy came over to me. He was like, "Did you see the Ohio State news?" There was no rumblings at all. There was any rumors about anybody being hired. And I said, "No, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Arthur Smith got the OC job for Ohio State." I'm thinking, who? Like, I'm not tapped into the NFL like that. I didn't know who Arthur Smith is, but he wasn't on my radar. And I said, "Who?" He said, "Arthur Smith." And he kind of started, he's a Michigan fan too. So that's context for the conversation. He said, "Arthur Smith." And he starting to chuckle a little bit. I text some of my buddies, and they're more in tune to the NFL than I am. They were not happy with it. I did my own digging. It doesn't make sense, Philip. This hire doesn't make sense. And I don't know. I get that he has attention from NFL teams and their report. Well, there were, I won't say official reports, maybe rumors that Arthur Smith was flirting with other NFL jobs between the day that he was reported as reportedly being the new OC to officially be the new OC. I don't know, man. I'm all for trying to have a former NFL head coach as a coordinator at Ohio State. I love the benefits of it. I love what it means for the players, for the recruiting, for the entire team. I love it. I don't fully love this hire. Ryan Day describes it as a home run hire, and I understand why Ryan Day was trying to defend his decision. I am going to wait till the season starts to wait to make a statement of saying this was a home run hire. Because right now, in the moment, I don't see it as a home run hire. It may be once they kick the season off and the Buckeyes play a few games. But as I sit here right now with you on this show, Philip, it's not a home run hire. It's actually a hire that could create more of the same offense that Ohio State had last year, which frustrated a lot of Ohio State fans because it wasn't the offense that people thought Ohio State was going to run.
Now, you say he was flirting with NFL teams. Here's my question. Were they flirting back?
I want to say yes, but I don't know how many because I don't think Tom Brady and the Raiders were trying to flirt with him back. I don't. It didn't make any sense.
You know, the wild thing about it with him is he did do a good job with the Titans. That's kind of like
that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's what led to him getting the Atlanta job, but the Falcons fans were over him, and then what he did with the Steelers. Like again, if anybody that knows anything, even the novice NFL fan, knows that Aaron Rodgers was running that offense this past year. It was not Arthur Smith. It's just if Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, he is also your offense coordinator.
Correct.
Basically.
Correct.
Those quarterbacks, when Brady his last few years, those guys, you saw it with your Colts. Phillip Rivers was the offensive coordinator,
which is pretty wild that he came off the couch and played a few games and looked better than some of the other quarterbacks of the NFL.
Well, not how he looked in the jersey. I mean,
yeah. He had a press conference, Philip, and the columnist for the Indianapolis Star asked him how much he weighs. He said, Greg, I don't know. I will tell you, it's not the weight that it was when I walked off the field at Buffalo the last time he played in 2020. And everybody chuckled and laughed. But I don't know if they put an official updated weight on the website, just trying to hide that from us.
What was funny, I saw that in the press conference. But the funniest part to me was when he also said, even when I played before, I wasn't running away from anybody.
This is true.
Look, that move, like I told you, we're going to look where the podcast takes us. That move made a lot of sense to me. Okay, because if you plan on just saying Riley Leonard, then you don't bring Phillip Rivers in. But if you wanted to bring somebody off the street, a free agency, Phillip Rivers made perfect sense for them because he was friends with that coaching staff. He knew the offense. Yes, can he move? No, which he couldn't move before either, but he really could not move now. But at least the Colts had a chance to operate their offense with him. You couldn't do that if you brought anybody else off the street. So Cam Newton, please sit down somewhere. I swear, every time somebody gets hurt, you start hollering that you should be starting. Do you know the offense? No, you did not. So chill out. Go do 4th and 1. Go talk to Stephen A. Smith. Have the wild hair. Go to Auburn. Say, War Eagle, I love you, man. You won a national championship. But please, in the words, we had a guy that did Sports Talk Radio down here in Dothan, Jay, and he had a famous saying for situations like this, and I'm going to use it. Cam Newton, sit down. Sit down. Sit down. I don't know how we worked him into this, but anyways. But yeah, it just made sense to me that you brought Phillip Rivers in just because, again, you could operate the offense. I didn't think they was going to make the playoffs. It was kind of a long shot even when he signed.
Yeah, it was.
That they made. I mean, I hated it for Daniel Jones. He was having a great year.
Yeah, he was.
And it really a bounce back. You know what we just saw in the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold? That could have been Daniel Jones.
Correct.
I mean, the way it was going at one point. But then he gets hurt. And the thing is, it now puts the Colts have got a tough spot because what do you do? Do you, what kind of contract do you offer him, bring him back? What are you going to do there? The injury he had, it's just, he just felt bad. You got to feel bad all the way around for what he did. Here's what we've learned. Here's what we've learned this year in football, professional football. Get away from the New York teams and you will be successful.
It seems like good advice, right? I mean, it seems like the advice.
Buffalo. Buffalo's okay. I mean, I know they're technically a New York team. But
are they? They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They didn't win one of them. Are they better? I know that was a long time ago, but they went 4 straight.
The Jets would take that in a heartbeat.
The Jets have a Super Bowl. The Bills don't. I don't think the Bills have one.
No, they went to the 4, but they have Josh Allen.
I like Josh Allen. I'll take Josh Allen any day of the week.
It's I mean the Jets have not made the playoffs since 2010. So
Since Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez,
yep.
when they went to the AFC Championship game, I believe, with
Yeah, they
that
played
team.
the Steelers who lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl that year.
Oh, you're happy about that?
Well, it's the last time they won one. And I told you off air, I mean, everybody heard it early in the week. I had a guy that covers the Seahawks on them. We talked about off air that everybody would think it's something Auburn related, but my worst memory as a sports fan is that 2014 travesty of an NFC Championship game when the Packers should have beat the Seahawks. It should have been Rodgers versus Brady. And then the same thing happened against the Bears this past year with the Packers. I was like, if I wanted to watch this again, I just go to YouTube. But
is
that
I won't say this is the equivalent of what I'm about to say, but that's very similar to LeBron James. I think it was the 09 season or maybe the 2010 season where LeBron got to the Eastern Conference Finals. It was supposed to be LeBron versus Kobe in the finals, but LeBron didn't overcome the Magic, and the Magic ended up going there. It was Dwight Howard facing whoever the big man was for the Lakers. It's kind of the equivalent of that. And you have two all-time greats. LeBron's a great, Kobe's a great, Brady and Rodgers are great. It's supposed to be that kind of matchup, but one quarterback didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
Or a guy on special teams that was told not to catch the ball and let Devontae Adams catch the ball, try to catch the ball, and then that's what happens too. So, the next year you bring that up because I'm a Lakers fan for letting the audience know.
Yeah.
So 2010 is when LeBron pretty much quit against the Celtics, and then the Celtics beat them 4-2, and then we didn't get it then.
2011,
2010.
2010. Yes.
Because the Celtics beat the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals, and LeBron you could tell he was out the door.
Yeah.
Watching that series, he was gone.
So we're into basketball now. That's the one complaint anybody can have about LeBron James is that he will occasionally just, well, it's not so much now, but there was a period of time when he was in the playoffs where he just wasn't always there. He wasn't showing up in the big moments. He kind of crumbled under pressure. If you think back to like the late 2000s and then early 2010s, he literally needed a running mate. That was the first ballot Hall of Famer to get a ring. And you can say that's a knock on him. It is a knock on him as far as like all-time great. He is still an all-time great. Don't get me wrong. But we never saw Jordan play like that. We never saw some of the other guys play like that. LeBron just happened to. I don't care I don't care who you're playing, who you're lining up against. You just got to go out there and lay it all on the line. And he just didn't do it. And I think about that Mavs series too in the 2011 finals. Where it just wasn't there. Wasn't there at all.
Show up. He did not show up in the fourth quarter in that series. In none of the games, he did. That is a Stephen A. rant on that, I think, somewhere where he did not show up. Now, the next year against the Thunder, they took care of business, 4-1. Then, really, let's look at and if you look at the second one, I didn't, like I said, where the podcast takes you, this is a football podcast. We're all in the NBA right now, running through LeBron James history. But if Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot, they don't win that championship. The Spurs were about to win it. Now, I will say this. We do not know what would have happened the next year because the Spurs were so ticked off over what happened that year. They turned it around the next year, and they were just on a mission, and they just annihilated teams. And they won. I think they won that series 4-1 the next year against the Heat.
The difference maker in that 2014 series to me was Kawhi Leonard. They had no answer. I think Kawhi was on the team at that time. I think.
Yeah.
They had no answer for him.
And LeBron had issues with him when he was guarding LeBron.
Yeah. And
then of course they ran into the Warriors and all that. So you probably know little LeBron. I mean, we had 8 straight years of LeBron in the finals.
So think about it. Think about this now, since we're on basketball. Literally, if Jordan didn't retire in those a couple of years in the 90s, it could have been 8 years of Jordan. It could have been 8 years straight of Jordan in the finals.
I think the Rockets may would have got him on one of them.
The difference, I don't know. I don't know the roster so well in those couple of years at what the 93, 94 season, 94, 95 season. I know the roster is pretty well. The first three-peat and the second three-peat. I don't know where the Bulls' weakness was in the middle two to where the Rockets were really good. I mean, that was a great team. I just don't know if the Bulls had replaced all the pieces already by the 94-95 season to compete if Jordan was there the entire time.
I kind of worry, and I'm trying to think back on some stuff that I remember watching old stuff on NBA TV and just highlights on YouTube. I think the Bulls' front line was aging with Bill Cartwright and Horace Grant. So
Yes.
and the teams that beat the Bulls, those series, of course, the Knicks, and then of course the Magic, a young Shaq, and then you had Patrick Ewing. They kind of struggled up front, and I think when Jordan came back, because I remember stuff I've read on that team where he came back at the end of the year, he was not in basketball shape when they played the Magic. He was worn out. He got exhausted against the Magic, and that's how they were able to knock them out. But then, of course, the next year, just a team on a mission broke the record for most wins before the Warriors got it a couple of years ago. I think that had been their problem. Going up against Olajuwon Hakeem when he was in his prime, and then Clyde Drexler out there on the outside. So that may have been an issue for those Bulls teams. But I think but it's Jordan, so you can't bet against it. So
I'm not going
we look back at it. He may have found a way because he wouldn't have been exhausted if he hadn't retired.
Right.
He still would have been in basketball shape. So
yeah.
All right, let's kind of move back to football here. People will be wondering what podcast they're listening to. They're like, man, my boy knows a little bit about the NBA too. I am full of talents that people just do not realize. I used to be NBA nerd, so I love that stuff. So we kind of go into college football off season, and I'm glad they're staying at 12. I know that's not permanent. They're good. We all know what this is, and it's the SEC and the Big Ten posture against each other. And I get it. I think the Big Ten has thrown out, we'll go 16 early to go to 24 late and get rid of the conference championship games. The SEC does not want to get rid of the SEC championship game.
No, not at all.
Of all the conferences, they make money off of that. That is a big money maker for the SEC because, it's in Atlanta every year. And I know the Big Ten is there getting better. And I think having a one central location for it is the way to go. I think that really helps. I think some of the other conferences have moved theirs around, which I have also said the SEC is a point now where I think you could move it around. You could go Atlanta, Nashville, New Orleans, maybe Jacksonville, Texas, because the SEC brand is different. But also now the Big Ten is the king of college football. I'm not going to sit here and say the SEC is the best when they're not. Three different Big Ten teams have won championships, so I'm not there. But I just feel like it's just that. It's right now we know who runs the sport. It's the Big Ten and the SEC. And I think a problem the sport has is those two conferences not being on the same page. I don't see them ever getting on the same page. Because the betterment of the sport is for those two conferences to be able to work together. I just don't see it happening.
There we go. I don't see it happening either. I actually only hit my mic and muted myself. I don't see it happening either. I don't see a scenario where Greg Sankey and Tony Batiti find a way to get on the same page. Because if they get on the same page, you're breaking off of the NCAA and you're forming your own league. And then you're forcing the Big 12 and the ACC to figure out their own stuff, figure out their contracts, and figure out if moving away and making your own league the right thing. Because I think it's where they're trending. I'm glad they're staying at 12. I said this on Locked On Buckeyes, I think last week when we talked about the new CFP schedule for next season. I said I'm happy. I'm happy at 12. I wasn't a fan of expansion. I don't think 16 or 24 is going to be the right move for the sport. That's where we're going. And so sticking at 12 for as long as we can is ideal. The one problem I have with the sport along these lines, with these conferences running everything, is that they're running everything. Mm-hmm. I just don't like the conferences having so much power. I don't at all. I never have. I won't. I think that them having so much power is why the College Sports Commission, or the CSC, whatever that stands for, is having issues. I think the NCAA isn't stepping in because of the power that these two conferences have. I don't like it. You should never have these two power leagues that are so large that they have all the power of over 130 plus FBS teams. It doesn't make any sense. And now, Philip, you can add North Dakota State to that number because they're going to be in the Mountain West next year. I thought expansion was over for the offseason. I didn't know we were going to get expansion now. I love the move for North Dakota State. I think that they are one of those programs at the FCS level that could compete with a lot, not just like the bottom level FBS teams. They can compete with the middle level and maybe even, I don't say they're going to beat some of the top teams. They can give some of them a game because that's how talented they are. They'll be the underdog and they'll literally lay it all on the line. I don't like how much power these conferences have. My hope is that down the road, well, not down the road, very, very soon, they'll realize we're just making our lives harder. How about we work together, come together, form our own league, and let everything else fall where it's going to fall? You can keep the college football playoff and you can keep that thing. You can figure out how to govern it, make a commissioner, and put the proper channels in the governing body that you need to put them. But this sport right now we love this sport, man. We talk about this sport every single day. But I just can't get down with the decisions they're making and having so many hands, so many voices in that have a say, that literally are the ones deciding what happens. I don't like it. I don't know if I ever will.
One thing for me, and I'm with you, and I think it's good that they're moving in to the Mountain West, but I'm also going to miss them being in the FCS because they have facilities compared to the other FCS. I mean, that's why they're ready to come in. But one thing with the playoff, and this is why, look, I prefer the NFL model of crowning a champion. I prefer in Alabama how, even though it does have some flaws, how they crown a state champion in football. And here's why. In high school football and in NFL, when the season starts, you know what you have to do to make it. You know why? There's not a committee. There's a committee in college football, and I think one thing that would help everything is if there was, when this thing first started, I was anti automatic qualifiers. But really, we look at the NFL and high school football formats. That's what they are. They're automatic qualifiers. Like the NFL, you're 4 division champs in each conference, and then you're 3 wild cards. That's automatic qualifiers. I really wish there could be something with college football where we can just get away from the committee. Because, look, I'm human. I have bias towards certain things. Jay, I'm sure you do. We're human. We all are biased towards something. Anybody that says they are completely unbiased, they are lying to your face because they do have stuff they're biased to. And these committee members are the same thing. And I'm not faulting them for that. But they're just human. They're going to have bias. Look, you're going to have some that are going to be biased toward the SEC, some going to be biased toward the Big Ten, biased toward Notre Dame, all these examples. But if we could come up with a system that gets away from the committee and we just have, I hate to say this, I almost think the BCS computer would be better than having a committee. But I know we've talked about this before, you would be all for the BCS coming back all together. Hey, those computers cost Auburn a national championship in 2004. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, I just believe if we can get away from the committee and kind of figure out a system where you do this, you're in the playoffs, and we figure out our 12 that way. And I know they do it college basketball, but it's different when there's 68 teams. I'm sorry if you're number 69 or 70 didn't get in. I'm sorry. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But 13 or 14, look, let's just say what it is. Look, I got into some Twitter fights over this. I do not think we should have had 2 group of 5 teams in the playoff. Notre Dame, okay, Tulane I was cool with. The highest ranked one, completely fine with. Notre Dame should have been in the playoff. They were a playoff quality team. And I understand they were upset. They didn't want to play in a bowl game. Notre Dame should have been in. And I just think the group of 5 should have their own playoff. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, yes, it would be looked at as the NIT of college football, but we got to have the best teams in there. And I think it's not what Indiana did is not tainted. I'm not saying that, but if you also look at it, you had a team out there, and BYU had a case too. I mean, I know they got beat bad by Texas Tech, but they were better than those two Group of Five teams that got in James Madison and Tulane. So
Mm-hmm.
we got to work. We got to figure that part out too as well. I don't if there's a Group of Five team that's undefeated, put them in there. They deserve it, but neither of those were undefeated. We saw who they lost to. They shouldn't have been in there. So, that's just kind of my I'm going to step off my soapbox for a second, but that's just kind of, I love playoff football. It's one of my favorite things, but I think we both can agree the college football playoff can be much better.
It can be a lot better. It can be a lot better. I'm not even talking about the schedule itself, which can be drastically improved too. This sport can be a lot better. There are some simple things. Simply just putting the top 12 teams in the sport in the playoff. If you want to have automatic qualifiers and just put some clear cut criteria out there, I'd be all for that. That's the only reason I would say you put your power conference champions automatically get in if you want to have some clear cut data. Because clearly, a year ago, Duke was not better than Duke could have lost to Tulane or James Madison. Like, Duke was not that strong, like a power in the sport. Like they cemented their spot. No, they got in there because of a weird tiebreaker system the ACC uses, where Notre Dame plays a wannabe ACC schedule, so they kind of messed up the whole formula of how they figure everything out. To me, Miami was better. Miami was clearly better than Duke. And so, to me, the obvious, let me get back on topic now because I can ramble about that for days. Just put the top 12 teams in the sport in the playoff. Done deal. Then you would actually eliminate some of the conversations that were had on the selection show about having Tulane and James Madison in. Allow more games to be played on campus. If you still want to keep the semifinal and the national championship neutral site, I can get on board with that. But mainly, give those quarterfinal teams, those teams that get the first round bye, allow them the luxury to play at their home site. Because I don't see why you wouldn't. I would actually prefer the NFL model where the only game that's a neutral site is the national championship, the final game of the year. Make it even more special. I understand why they want to keep the partnerships with the bowl committees and the bowls systems. And I get that. I think part of that is also an ESPN thing. Because ESPN has the exclusive rights, broadcasting rights of the CFP. And I wonder if ESPN has put in there, you have to use these bowls that we own in the playoff. They haven't come out and said that. But I truly wonder if ESPN is strongholding this thing to keep the bowl partnerships going even longer, because ESPN's getting the viewership, they're getting the advertising dollars. They're getting so much money from simply having their name and having the broadcasting rights. I wouldn't be shocked if a TV network said, no, you have to do this for these reasons, and we're not going to budge. I hope they're not doing that, but I would not be shocked if they are. Just put more games on campus. It's not hard. It's really not that hard. If you say it is, sorry, it's not. There are enough people, there's enough money to make this thing happen.
You brought up ESPN, and that's another thing. So, of course, and people see my handle, P. George Sports. Used to be P. Jordan SEC for the longest, was my handle on social media. So, Mr. SEC guy, which it feels like with ESPN holding the exclusive rights, that whole ESPN SEC agreement, bias, whatever word you want to call it, is always going to be there. Yeah. Because people from the outside are going to look at it like, okay, ESPN has this big contract with the SEC. ESPN is going to use their influence to get as many SEC teams in there as possible. And look, again, as I said, SEC, you're not the top dog in the sport anymore because the Big Ten's won 3 straight with 3 different teams. I would like to see this thing spread out with the networks. I think Fox should be more involved in this because they have the Big Ten. This would be the equivalent of CBS having the entire playoff every year when they're the AFC, or vice versa if you want to go with Fox and NFC. Have these other networks. And these other networks have their A teams. You know, it's a topic for another day. I'm sure we could have on which teams are good, which ones aren't. But, you know, you've got your NBC, your CBS. Which CBS's team is going to look different now with Charles Davis sliding in as the the lead analyst there. I think Fox and ESPN should have the most playoff games, but I think they should be together. I think that would make it a whole lot more enjoyable and just different because every network broadcasts it different. They have a different look, a different feel. I swear, people in the SEC hate big noon kickoff. I think mainly, Jay, because they were out too late on Friday night. They want to stay in the bed a little bit longer and not have to get watch football game. That's just my opinion. It feels big when a big noon comes on. It's a Fox game. ESPN, ABC games with Hurst Street and Fowler, those games feel big. Those would be the main ones. You throw CBS and NBC in there to give them like a first round matchups or something like that. I think we need to have all those guys more involved. And here's another thing. So in the NFL, the team that has the first round bye, their advantage is that they're not playing the first round, and then the team they're playing somebody that played the previous week. We just saw this. These teams in the first round, they're getting in 2 weeks off before they play the next round. What advantage do you have? Really, you don't get to play at home. You're at a bowl site.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the other team gets rested up. That's not the advantage of having the off week. You're almost better off just losing a game on purpose just to get in the first round. Really, I mean, Indiana is the only team in the playoffs that's had a bye that's won in the second round. All the other ones have lost, all of them. So that needs to, you kind of alluded to it a little earlier. The schedule, the way we do the playoff, that needs to change as well because they need to be playing the very next week.
They do.
I get you don't want to go up against the NFL. You know, as much as if you're a college football fan, you love it. The NFL is always going to beat college football right now. I mean, that's not going to change. But still, figure out a schedule where you play the first round 1 week and then 7 days later, 6 to 7 days later, you were playing again. Because if you're not, you don't really give an advantage to the bye week team. And if you're not going to do that, just increase this thing to 16 and no longer have teams with bye weeks.
Philip, there's a couple things I want to touch on, but the first one is the part about the schedule. I mean, it's a problem. There's no level in football where you take this much time off between games in the postseason. You can go down to Little League football, to high school football, middle school, NFL. There's no, like the NFL only has 1 week where there's 2 weeks, or there's a week in between games. That's the week in between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl. That's it. Their schedule is fixed. There's, I believe, 1 bye week now. I would not be shocked if they expand this thing to 18 games and add a second bye week. I am not a fan of 18-game NFL season. I'm not at all, but it's almost inevitable because the owners want more money. And if you add more games, you're going to get more money. And so it's almost a unexpected thing to happen. The schedule has to change. It's very easy for that to change. The format itself, you want to go to 16? I would not. That's not my cup of tea. But if that would eliminate some of the chaos, okay, I could get on board with trying to eliminate some chaos. Philip, the whole thing about the TV networks and them changing the broadcast rights to get, really it's ABC that I think needs to get into this, not ESPN. ESPN is on it. I don't believe they broadcasted any game on ABC during the playoff, and I don't believe they've done that throughout the past few years in the college football playoff. You got to get back on ABC. The fact that they got a 30 million viewership number when the game's on ESPN is insane on a cable network. Now, I get you have all the different avenues and the streaming, and of course, they want to add all that into their number. The fact that you have 30 million people on a cable network is ridiculous, ridiculously great. If you get that thing on ABC, it feels more like the NFL, and you could get CBS, Fox, and NBC to all, and even if they just rotate the national championship, that'd be perfectly fine. Rotate it. They all have their in-studio guys. They have their on-site guys. They have plenty of sideline hosts, plenty of play-by-play men. I mean, you had Noah Eagle, who wasn't calling the game, doing some pregame conversations before the game started. He's a play-by-play man for NBC. They have so many. Their talent is easy to find. It's not hard. And you have so many seasoned vets that are calling these big games, from Gus Johnson to Brad Nessler to Noah Eagle. Noah's the youngest, but honestly, I think Noah's the best of the three. That's perfectly fine. Allow those guys to Do what they've done all year. Call big college football games. To me, it's a no-brainer. But I also wonder, why is ABC not doing anything with the college football playoff? I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Why Disney is trying to make sure it's on ESPN, or maybe ESPN is saying no, we don't want to split it up to ABC. I don't know. They do it with the NBA. They do it with the SEC in the regular season. I don't understand why ABC doesn't do the college football playoff games. I think they did the BCS. I'm pretty sure the Rose Bowl used to be on ABC and National Championship used to be on ABC. I don't know why ABC doesn't get those games. If they fix that, if they do that, I think we can branch out and start getting the other networks to call games. And eventually you'll get TNT. Philip, I'll push back if the CW tries to get in the bidding for a college football playoff game, because I just found out that we have the CW on our YouTube TV. I had no idea that it was even a thing until football season. I don't want to watch a college football game on that network. Sorry. I'm a creature of habit. I want to stick with my 4 networks and let everything else fall where it's going to fall.
In the ABC part, and I agree with you. I have thought about that because it would make it feel bigger if especially if your championship game is on broadcast television.
Yes.
Because you're right. Look, every other year the basketball one is on CBS. We know they have their deal with Turner. The NFL is going to look next year. It will be simulcast on ABC and ESPN, the Super Bowl. Well, it will be on ABC.
Good.
And then Fox, NBC, all these networks, they shared that. The NBA Finals is on there. Every other year, the NHL, the Stanley Cup is on there. The World Series has it. They're on Fox. So, yes, they should be on. Even the WNBA gets on ABC. They're in the WNBA Finals. Now, if it's during the week game, it's on ESPN. But if they have a weekend game, it's on ABC. So, I agree with you.
So, Philip, when you say that, I wonder if that's why they don't do the ABC, because sometimes New Year's Day is in the middle of the week. The national championship is played on a Monday night. But when I say that, I realize the NBA Finals are always on ABC and nobody complains. So as I'm saying this, I know there's a way to work around anything in these TV networks. They'll say, "Oh, we're gonna get how much money for having this game?" Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, that regular TV show that's right there. Sorry, you're off a week. Have one of your built-in off weeks right here because we got to get this game played.
Yeah. So and TV schedules are made in advance. And I think with the NBA now, with their new TV deal, I think NBC, there's going to be some years, I think NBC is going to get the finals.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Sorry, I like the ABC broadcast of the finals. There is so much drama when they do stuff. Like I like the NBA. The drama with Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols. Like, I'm not trying to get into all the stuff that happened 4 or 5 years ago. There's always drama. Who's calling it? Who's going to be doing the studio? I like Mike Breen. I would love to hear Noah Eagle call the NBA Finals. To me, he's the next big name. Like his Ian Eagle's great. Noah Eagle's already great to me, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Jim Nantz to no longer. They're moving on from him with the.
I'm going to say this quickly. I don't know if people are going to be a little bit mad. Maybe I think Tony Romo's downfall might push Jim Nantz out.
Yeah, I was glad Jim Nantz, they moved him off the NCAA the championship.
They did?
Yeah.
For football or basketball?
Ian Eagle was calling it.
Oh.
Jim Nantz to me did not. Okay. He was a guy that did not call games every week.
For basketball, yeah. Sorry, yeah. He did.
Basketball, I just was not for Nantz. So we've gone about 50 minutes. Who I told you, podcast is going to take us where it's going to take us. We have jumped on so many different things. We've jumped off the track so many times in this. So a couple weeks ago on my Facebook, I had some Ask Me Anything. And if you actually check out the pod, if you're one of the 5 people that actually checks out the pod, we'll get to 10 since Jay's on this week. So on this episode, so we'll have more than the 5. I had them ask me anything. I didn't answer them on Facebook, but I said let's do them here, and let's throw some at these at Jay too as well. The first one's going to be an easy one word, I think, for both of us. It's just easy. This is a guy I work with. Charles McNally, will college ever go back to non-NIL days?
No,
There's no way. No,
no.
the toothpaste cannot be put back into the tube. It is here. Which they do something with the portal. That's the biggest issue,
Correct.
I think, more than anything than NIL. But yeah, no way. All right, we'll see how you feel about some SEC coaching hires. Because
Okay.
people threw some Auburn stuff at me. Brandon Eisman, and I'll listen to you, then I'll answer. Where does Alex Golesh rank among new SEC head coaching hires? Now, Ohio State lost a coach because of Alex Golesh going to Auburn.
Where did John Summerall go, to Florida?
Yes, that was one I wanted, but
I think it's a better hire. I don't know all the coaching hires that have happened in this cycle, so I can't say.
I mean, obviously Lane is the number one. Going
Is he though? Is he?
Well, I mean,
Is he?
You could make arguments, but I feel like if I wrote this as an article and I did not have Lane at number one, I know the first thing people was going to accuse me of is just trying to get attention. They're like, you just Stephen ate it. And so
I'll put Lane one just to make it easy. My only thing about Lane is he's only good when he can pay players. If you can't pay players, he's not like a really good head coach. He's more of an offensive coordinator. He's like a poor man's Lincoln Riley if you can't pay players. If that makes sense. Like, I think Lincoln Riley and him, I think Lincoln Riley's a better head coach overall. Lane is really good because you can pay players. He's taking advantage of the system. I don't know how good of a overall head coach he is.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I think Golesh, look, I had some questions and some concerns because when he came to head coach, he talked about retaining the roster. And Auburn had talented players. They were in every game they played last year. Georgia, they lost by 10. The rest were by one score or less. But then Cam Coleman leaves, which I kind of figured he'd go somewhere else.
Yeah,
and Texas is reportedly paying him quarterback money. So I understood that. But then there's a lot of players at Auburn left. But he brings in Byron Brown, who was great at South Florida. 3,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. The running backs he's brought in. I think they're okay. I think they're good, and they pretty much brought a lot of the young core of the Auburn defense back. So I think he's up there. I think he's going to have a better first year than John Summerall. So if that's the odd answer, I wouldn't necessarily put a ranking on it, but I think that Auburn got a good coach. And Hugh Freeze liked to play golf a lot. Golesh does not. And that is good.
That's a good sign. That's a very good sign.
That joker Freeze went on a darn podcast interview tour after the season was over with at Auburn, and they hired Golesh. He was going on. I should have, if I knew how to contact him, I would have asked him on this one. Let him go. Anyways, then this is the last one. This is the NFL. And like I said, this was a few weeks ago when these came through, so we know who their new head coach is. Timothy Ward. Do you think Bills made a mistake in firing McDermott?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I don't believe. I know he was there for, was it 9 years?
He was there a good bit. He was coaching them to the playoffs before they had Josh Allen. He got them to the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback.
Yeah, he's one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL. You don't fire that guy. Mike Tomlin, say what you want. You may say that he's really good. You may say he's not. He's one of the better coaches in the NFL who walked away under his own terms. John Harbaugh not being in Baltimore anymore. That doesn't feel right to me. Sean McDermott not being in Buffalo doesn't feel right. You shouldn't have fired him at all. You should not have let him go, because you may think, oh, there's something better on the other side. And what we've learned in college football, Philip, where we know so much, a lot of players think the grass is greener on the other side, and 9 times out of 10, it's not. One thing with the portal that I didn't say earlier, you mentioned it, that needs to change. I'm kind of on the John Calipari mode and mindset that players aren't graduating. And so you're having a place of higher learning that's allowing kids to come in to play athletics, but you're not putting a strong emphasis on them being college graduates. And so I don't know how many kids are graduating from college, let alone how many of them are literally playing 4 years of football or basketball, or how many of them are using all their eligibility. Because my guess is not as many as you think. And the graduation rates at these schools, I guarantee they're going down. They have to be going down. And so until you put some guardrails there, things will keep spiraling out of control because the adults in the room don't want to stand up and make decisions.
Yeah, I'm with you. A lot of guys that go into the portal don't find anywhere else. Don't find anywhere to
Correct.
land. That's another thing. They're getting bad advice on going into the portal too as well. And I think the McDermott thing, I'm going to kind of go hindsight is 2020, knowing where the search ended.
Yeah.
With Brady as the new head coach, not Tom, the other Brady, Joe Brady. I think that you just basically brought somebody in. You basically promoted from within with your program or your team, your franchise. I think McDermott maybe. I think they fired him feeling like they needed to because it was another failure of the team. But I think now when you look at if they could have got like John Harbaugh,
yeah,
okay, I get it. That you upgraded. You just got a coach that's won a Super Bowl before. But now I don't know. I we'll see what happens with Josh Allen. If and I just said going to the playoffs, Jay, this was their year. They had Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow were not in the playoffs. And I know the Bills were a flawed team defensively.
Yeah.
But when I look at the rest of the AFC, they shouldn't have lost. They shouldn't have lost these games. But he turned the ball over twice. Josh Allen turned the ball over twice against the Broncos, and they lost. So,
can I ask you a question?
Okay,
I'll make it really quick. Do you think Matt Patricia will be an NFL defensive coordinator or head coach in the upcoming season?
So he really only had the one shot as a head coach in NFL with the Lions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The NFL has shown to give guys opportunity. Look at Robert Saleh, now going to be the Titans head coach. And we've seen other situations with that. I think he will get another, if he continues to do what he's doing at Ohio State with the defense, maybe another year. I think he will get a look. I think he has a better shot. I'll say it like this. He has a better shot at becoming an NFL head coach than Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll keep this quick. I know we're running kind of long. I think Patricia is more likable right now. And somebody made a comment about Bill Belichick recently, and in regards to his girlfriend, that I wonder if NFL owners would allow her to be around as much as she is around North Carolina. Because my guess is no. And if you mess with her, Bill's probably being like, no, she's with me. She's a part of me. We are together. We go everywhere together. And so my guess is that's probably more likable. Is that plus Patricia's younger. Patricia's younger, and players love going all out for him. I don't think the North Carolina players really are all in on Bill Belichick right now. Aside from him, well, he didn't make the Hall of Fame. So I can't use the fact that he's a Hall of Famer right now because he's not yet. He should have been in.
He should.
Yeah, that was dumb. That was so stupid.
Well, Parcells had the same problem. He ticked off so many reporters and people that he needed to get along with. That's why it took him so long to get in there. And I'll close on this, and we'll do our goodbyes because we've gone an hour. I don't know if we've ever really done that on here.
I don't think we have.
But it's amazing to me, a guy that preached fighting the distractions, canceling the noise, like he did with New England for so long, and now he gets a girlfriend that's young enough to be his granddaughter. He's letting all these distractions in. It's just wild to me.
That's one of the weirdest things about this whole Bill Belichick North Carolina thing is that he is allowing someone in his life that has become a major distraction, and there's no sign of kicking her. I don't know what she, unless he just wants a younger woman, and some older men want younger women. Of course, she's of age. I'm not trying to go like the other route there, but I don't know what this man has done. I don't know what she's done to him. I don't know, but something about the being together is allowing him to go away from a lot of the things that made him the wizard, maybe the master game plan guy. I don't know what he was. I just know he was a great coach, and now it's just not working out the same way.
No, it's not. So we covered a lot of ground. on this podcast. And a lot of stuff I'm playing, but I told you at the beginning, we'll see where the podcast takes us. Jay's fun. Always having y'all. Just talking it up and all that good stuff. Where can everybody follow you if they want to follow your work?
Guys, follow me on Twitter or X at jsteven07. Locked on Buckeyes comes out every day of the week. Most days it comes out twice, every Monday through Friday. Generally, there will be a couple of shows, and we'll do some live shows after Ohio State basketball games currently as we're towards the end of the basketball season. My work with the Kokomo Post is mainly all digital media. There's no print media at all. It's all interviews and videos. The Kokomo Post Sports on Facebook, the Kokomo Post on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow us there. And we have a good time covering high school sports. There's a semi-pro league that's going to be starting their season. Actually, my first game covering them, Philip, they have a home game I might be able to cover on March 14th. You mentioned that date being an important date in your life. And so I'll be at a basketball game that day thinking about you and everything going on in your life there. But I'm done rambling. I could talk forever, guys. But Philip, it's always fun. I didn't say anything about Stephen A. Smith, Zach Gelb. I didn't mention about Bill Simmons at the beginning. I didn't mention anybody that we talk about like pre-show. So maybe we could do an entire show just about sports media and just ramble for an hour about stuff Clay Travis says and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, plenty to jump on with that. So we'll do that on a later time. But again, Jay, I do appreciate coming on, hanging out an hour, and you got to go do your other stuff.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you doing this, and it was a lot of fun.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right, remember, you can follow me. You see it on the screen at P Jordan Sports. Find a podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Check it out over on YouTube at the Phil Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Also, the Phil Jordan Show YouTube channel as well. And also email me, sports.philjordan@gmail.com. And until next time, bye-bye.